Hi, I'm Rose Johnson, and I teach third grade.
I'm Katie Webb, and I teach third grade also.
So our first question from our wonderings had to do with changing instruction. So how has the process of using the TEACS trackers and pre-assessment changed your instruction? And we'll go ahead and include that to planning.
Okay. I believe it's made our guided math incredibly purposeful. Not that it wasn't before, but now we really know where our kids are struggling and what we need to target in guided math. In the older grades, we do seminar, so it's also helped us pace our seminar that I think some of us do 3 times a week. Third grade's been doing it 5 times a week, but it's helped us pace that seminar and really kind of project and look into the future as to what we need to teach and what we can kind of back off on a little bit.
And then also too, if you make your own TEACS tracker like they showed us in PLC with your kids for each TEAC that are, still green or red or yellow, you can use that easy for RTI too and see what kids you need to pull in there that are still on that final checkpoint, still not getting it or still red or still yellow. So if you use your own tracker too, it's real quick, pull it out, and then who you need for groups, who you need for RTI. And then if you, like Rose said, if you see still a lot of your class isn't getting it, then you can kind of back up and change what you're doing, that next day and maybe take it back down to the skill. And so I think it's beneficial to make sure you keep your own tracker of your whole class.
So the next kind of bunch of questions kind of came around the effects of students. So what effects do you see the trackers and the pre-assessment and all that having on students? Like growth or performance, or we could even include agency.
So I've noticed that the kids, you have to train them to remember to they have to look at their data more than once. Sometimes it's like, okay, we'll get out your tracker and see where you were on this TEAC. Today we're doing a compose and decompose group. What color were you? And some of them know. I mean, they're able to come to you and be like, well, I was yellow. I really need you. And so also having the conversation on the pre-assessment you were yellow, but we've had 5 days of instruction. So now I've noticed that you're really catching on. So you could be green right now, because I've had kids come to me and be like, I'm yellow. And I'm like, you're doing fine. Why are you with me? And it's because they're thinking, about that pre-assessment, but they're having that conversation with you. Right. And so just, you might have to pull it out pretty often and be like, hey, look at what you are. Think about why you are that. What are your needs? And so, we've just had really good conversations, and they've been able to, tell you what they need.
Right. And they're excited about it too, because they get to go and watch their color change or watch their color grow, even if it's not every time. So maybe you're yellow 2 times in a row, but then you finally become green. I mean, that says that you worked really hard for that. So it's built a little bit of excitement and drive in the kids as well.
Seeing a kid get red on the pre-assessment can be quite difficult for them. So first off, is it difficult? Have y'all had kids get upset and cry? And then how did you handle that conversation with kids?
We've had to have the conversation a lot about red on a pre-assessment in 3rd grade, but the kids are starting to understand that a pre-assessment is an assessment over things that we haven't necessarily taught in 3rd grade at all. And so getting a red on it isn't necessarily a bad thing. All it is it tells you this is something that I need to make sure I'm going to guided math groups on, or listening to the videos that my teacher has created and really paying attention to the instruction and trying on. I personally have not had any tears over a red on a pre-assessment. It's really just been an opportunity to talk about changing that red into a yellow or a green and just promoting that growth and that excitement that I mentioned earlier.
For me, the red, I didn't have any tears, but it's the ones that are red, and I've seen a lot less red, which is good, because I think that's why this is so powerful. There's 2 or 3 red kids maybe each time, and encouraging them really to show their work so that we can look at it together and be like, one kid I can think of, she's red, but she's so close to a yellow because all her work is right, but it's the last step she's messing up on. And so I'm going to pull her tomorrow and have a conversation with her about that. you're doing all of this right, but it's just this last piece. And so I think it helps encourage them to show that your work so that you're able to have those conversations. If you show me what you do know, then I can help you, fix it and help you move up. And so, I don't know.
So talk to us a little bit about like the progression, or like how long does it take kids to progress from red to yellow to green, or yellow to green? What does that look like, and have there been any big shocks for you or things like that?
The first week was a big shock for the both of us, and like our classes in particular did not do as well on the checkpoints as we thought. And so we can show y'all at a later time just how we like do seminar now, and how we changed it to better fit the needs of our kids and extend those high kids, and then really be able to work with those lower groups, those yellows and those reds. And we've seen a huge difference. And I would say we've done the readiness teaks, all of the readiness teaks we've done over about 2 weeks each. And that's been a pretty good amount of time. And we've seen most kids move to mastery after those 2 weeks. Would you agree?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, you always have those outliers, but that's not to say that even though they may still be red, that's not to say that there hasn't been growth. And
Right.
and following this method and doing this, I feel like I've spent a lot more time with those kids that are struggling. And even if they can't quite bump it up to yellow, you're still seeing that growth, and you're still seeing where they're starting to catch on
Exactly.
and try to fill that gap.
And that goes back to this, like this
Yes.
one kid I'm thinking of, like she's red, but she's so dang close to yellow now. It's like, just remember to do this one thing and
Yes.
you'll move to yellow.
So the growth is definitely there.
You kind of talked about this, and this is going off script here for a little bit, but you mentioned how you kind of changed seminar a little bit based off of the past several weeks of experience. Can you tell us kind of how your seminar time flows and how you target those kids?
So the first thing we did is, we were thinking that 3 days a week wasn't enough, and so we added 30 minutes. We took 30 minutes out of Genius Hour on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and so we meet those days as well. And so in out of Genius Hour and
short and
science. Yeah.
And so we have different, like each day we do the same kind of thing, but we just plug in. So like, for example, on Monday, we do an introduction video for like our yellow and red kids while we meet with the high kids, check on them, and then we give them, some practice. And then Tuesday and Thursday,
we create think aloud videos for our high and our like average kids that we felt like, got it on Monday. So we'll go and we'll find, like a motivational math or like envisions or something to that effect. And we'll do a couple think aloud problems just to make sure it's solid, and then let them go on their own and finish that. So that gives us work that can be graded, because I know that was a big concern as well, like finding work to be graded. And then Wednesdays and Fridays we usually save for our checkpoints. We're still kind of playing with that, but Wednesdays is usually our time we leave for giving them collaborative, like making posters or things like that, working collaboratively on an assignment. And we take those lower groups and kind of help them work collaboratively on something.
Right.
The biggest thing, though, I think that changed seminar for us was making that introduction video for the yellow and the red groups on Monday to watch, while we kind of take those really high kids, go over it. They don't need the whole spiel most of the time. Go over it real quick with them, and then let them go do something collaboratively or independently that can stretch and keep them engaged, while we let the kids yellows and red watch that introduction, and then they come to the group and we reteach the same thing, but the kids now have the vocabulary to have that conversation in the group.
And then a good place to look for extension activities is the Motivation Math Teacher Guide. We pull a lot of our, and there's even interventions in there too. And we pull extensions from there all the time. Like the last one we did was, but it was like make a poster. The last two have been like make some type of poster, but then we added like, and then explain it on a flip grid. So just kind of like adding blended.
Yeah. Yes. And they love Flipgrid, guys. Putting that one out there. We know somebody else that loves Flipgrid.
Yes, I love Flipgrid. It's not a lie. It's true. That's true. What about kids that won't come? What do you do about kids who won't come to a group?
Never really and honestly had much of an issue with it, because we started this kind of concept of open tables last year. If you need help with this, you need to come now. And they come. Most of them are willing to come back and work with you because they want to be with you and they want to work with you, which is part of the problem, is having kids that don't need to come back or coming back. But there's always the outliers. And at that point, I mean, I would just probably say something like, I know who's red, I know who needs help, but I want you guys to own it, because that's part of, the education process. And if you're not going to own it, then I'm going to have to call you until you can learn to own it on your own.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, most of them, there's like one or two I can think of, and I'm like, what color were you? Go back and look at your tracker. And they, they're like, oh, it's red. Like, they want to be successful. They don't want to be the one that, and we talk about, like, if you're one of those kids that, like, hates coming back here, well, you have to keep coming back here until you're green. So, show me the work, show me, because some of the couple that I can think of, it's just a matter of, like, laziness. It's like, you could be green, but you're being lazy. So that's kind of helped encourage them. They don't want to keep coming. I'm like, okay, well, then you need to show me what you know. So for the most part, it hasn't been a problem.
No.
Do you guys review or go over the pre-assessment, or what do you do with your pre-assessment?
I keep mine in the data tracking binder just to hold on to it in case I ever did want the kids to look at it again. But there's really not a purpose in going over a pre-assessment over something that they don't know. And your checkpoints are kind of what makes sure, what helps you make sure that that pre-assessment's been covered.
Yeah,
I keep
that. I keep all the checkpoints in the binder too.
Yes.
It's going to be good to use that to talk to parents. So
yes, absolutely.
And our last question is about time management. So to give the pre-assessment and to get your kids to go through it, and Katie, your video was one-on-one, and Rose, yours had a group of like 3. You're giving up time to do that. So how do you balance all that out?
Well, as you saw in our videos, we did have to take that time up front from, that guided math time or the guided reading time to be able to have those conferences and conversations. But the whole point of the student agency outlook and taking responsibility for your education is eventually weaning those kids off to where they are managers of their data and being able to do that independently and track things independently. And sure, you'll have kids that will probably never be able to do it truly independently, but you're talking maybe one group every now and then, which is not a whole bunch of time as you see the year progress. Up front, yeah, it is some time, but it's worth it. The payoff is good.
I would say definitely the first time, either do it one-on-one or do it like in a smaller group, just to talk through it with them. And then we usually do a whole group. So on the checkpoint, I usually put how many they got right, and then I write the color right now, because some of them still are, they're not able to look at the number and know oh, I'm green, oh, I'm yellow. So I usually just write the color, and then we kind of talk whole class, reflect on your color and look at your checkpoint and think about why did you get that? Are you where you thought you were going to be? Are you not? If you're not, then why do you think that is? And so just having them kind of think. You could even have them, write a little reflection right after. I don't know, just what they're thinking, what they think they need still, why they didn't do as well as they thought. So it goes a lot faster once, if you do a whole class, once they get in the routine, it doesn't take that much time.
All right. Well, thank you, ladies, for sharing your experience with us. I do want everybody to know that these were impromptu videos that I recorded of them. They had no idea I was coming, and I just stood there with my camera, and they didn't have a choice, but they were gracious about me posting their videos that they hadn't seen yet. But thank you so much. And I know that these 2 ladies are always welcome. Welcome any questions, or are here to give advice if you need it. And they are working through the process like all of us are. And so they can also be a good just ear to listen. So thank y'all. We'll see you next time.